Hello, everyone. As Erdem explained, I'm the founder and CEO of Garawell Games. We've seen these hit games, and as you heard from the previous presentation, previous panel, they're kind of long-standing games, and I wanted to make a case study out of these two games because I believe they're more outliers to the hyper-casual genre. If we're talking about hyper-casual genre, we are looking at games which have sometimes a month, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months of lifetime period. But we believe that we've done quite well with promotion of these games and development of these games so that they become long-standing hits. And with the changing environment in the industry, I believe these could be a case study option for defining what hybrid casual could be. Not exactly hybrid casual, as we've also talked about in the panel. It's not a distinct difference between a hyper casual and a hybrid casual. Yes, these games started with a hyper casual prototype phase, and the revenue stream is a hyper casual revenue stream. But still, we believe that we've done enough with the updates so that it's more of a hybrid casual looking game. So let's talk about Garawell Games. We are based in Istanbul. We are a studio who is working mostly remote. We have an office, but still we believe that it's more efficient to be working from home, not spending so much time on the way to the commute and to the office. We were founded in 2021 and a bit of more experience before. And Bridge Race was released on March 2021, while Color Match was launched in December 2021, and they are still under the account of Supersonic, and we are still working with Supersonic. Let's talk about Bridge Race first. By today, I've just recently checked it. We don't check it usually, but still, I wanted to check it before this presentation, and it seems like we've got around 400 million downloads, around 396 million downloads today, and it was the first in overall top charts in 22 countries in App Store, and more than that, 51 countries on Google Play. And of course, in the games section, it was top chart game in 93 countries. And with the prototyping phase, it took us 3 years from the beginning of development. And now I'm going to talk about the first version. There should be a GIF actually. Is it playable? If you click on this video, is it going to play? Okay, anyway, it should have been a GIF. The core mechanism was giving a feeling of completion to the player, actually. Here you can see that the main player is not there, just a ball sticking with other balls, and you are trying to complete a bridge, let's call it, over that side so that you are going to be able to pass. This mechanism, we believed, was kind of intuitive and would attract people to make a completion out of this mechanism. So we tested in 2019. It did not bring promising results, but we still kept on iterating because we believed this feeling of completion was attractive for the players and it was innovative. So in a way, I believe that if you see an idea that's worth testing later on because it's a unique one, and it's not out there in the market, I believe it's worth a try, and we've tested it again and again. And in the second version, I wish these GIFs could be playing. Paulina, could you open up the presentation from the URL instead of the download link? Is it possible? No, I mean the presentation from the link. Is it possible to play it from there? If you go back and click to the link I sent you, maybe. Anyway, we can do it without the GIFs, I guess. Okay, the second version was Ball Fighters, and we thought that adding a ragdoll as a player instead of just a simple ball would be better and would attract more people. So we added a completion feeling to open up a gate. That was a portal gate. Back then, we believed that portal gates were not used in games so much, so we believed that we could have it as an extra in our game. And also the IO games were kind of popular by then. So we said, okay, let's do it with the multiplayer version. And here I can say that while coming up with game ideas, we believe that IO games, yeah, as a genre, they may be that, but still, when I think about games, what comes to my mind is that while playing games, you should be playing and competing against someone, and that makes a better feeling in a game. So the IO genre, I believe, is not going to die anytime in the future because multiplayer games are there, and they are the most attractive ones when you're having this competition feeling. So we believe that IO game would fit well in this one. We tested in February 2020. That's a long time ago, as you can imagine, 2.5 years ago. And actually the KPIs were really good. Like we got 9 cents of CPI, around 35% of day one, and 600 seconds of playtime. But our publisher by then rejected the launch for lower than 45% of day one, which was kind of a shame because we could have published it by then, but still it came out to be better in the next phase. So what have we done on this in order to improve the day one retention or day 7 retention? We've tried a lot and we've tested these in a long time period, like let's say 6 months or 1 year, just went to test these additions on the game. So I believe that's why I told you in the beginning that hybrid casual could be such an environment for these games development, because you spend so much time on one type of game that at the end you could get the reward for it by long-term top chart reward. And we've tested different obstacles in the scene. Stages have changed, like we put another gate, obstacles around, and bonus levels were added, tested with bigger balls, and back for collection. Like by then, we didn't have the stack mechanism. If you would see the video, it's just a player getting back full of balls, but not like stacking up on top of each other. And we've added 1 versus 1 play mode as a CPI campaign, and we've added tutorials, but none of these things helped us achieve more than 40% of day one retention, unfortunately. But you may ask why we still continued. This is the bigger ball version. Like we tested a lot with this game. And maybe you could play this video. I guess there's a link, but anyway. Here we have a magnet power-up. Like you could collect the balls and bring it to the magnet area so that you would collect with a magnet. Later on, we tested a 3D version of it, inspired by, as you can imagine, Cube Surfers and Fall Guys. Like here we got a CPI of 80 cents and we dropped this idea as well. And the stack mechanism, when it came into life, it was November 2020. As there were 6 months or more, we actually approached it from a different point of view. So it was actually a good approach for us because we could say that by watching the trends, we did not copy the trends, but we took advantage of them. Like there was a stacking mechanism and you could apply it to any kind of game actually by that time. So we said, okay, maybe it's worth a try in our game as well. By adding this, still, we couldn't get a nice CPI as well. We said, let's change stuff again and change that portal gate to a bridge. And by changing that portal gate to a bridge, we actually got kind of a better CPI, but still around $1. So it was a Christmas season. As you all know, seasonality affects the CPI campaigns a lot. That's why we said it may be a faulty CPI. Let's still focus on improving this game and let's still try to iterate on it. And it came to the final version and elevated stair mechanism. As you can see, the bridges on the first one were kind of straight, but the other one, this one, looks kind of elevated and it's just like an elevator. So the CPI drastically dropped to 20 cents. We didn't know by then if it was a scalable CPI or not, but by today's standards, I can say that it was a scalable CPI. We actually were able to scale it, and just this video, just this one was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months long top creative for our game. And by those 6 months and 7 months, it was still in the top charts. Just with this video, just with 1 20-second video, it got really good results. And we have actually improved the in-game metrics as well. The CPI was good. So let's say, why not launch? And we said it. And in March 2021, and around 1.5 years ago, we published it with Supersonic. And let's talk about what we've done from the beginning. Added a lot of content. When we first launched the game, I can say that a difference from a hyper casual to hybrid casual is the content. You don't see a lot of content in a hyper casual, and it's kind of similar when it comes to game loop. But we said, okay, let's try out different stages so that players could see very different gameplay in each section of the game. And here we added a lot of new characters, added a roadmap. By roadmap, I mean you could see each level that were adding up on top of each other, and you could play and come back to the first levels. We actually removed that feature now, but we tested these kind of stuff. And shop bundles, and by shop bundles, I mean, again, coming back to hybrid casual, the IAPs are kind of important. And for this game, I can say that it's more than average of hyper casual games when it comes to IAP revenues as a percentage of the revenue stream. It's more than any average hyper casual. And we actually tested a ton of A/B tests, and by each A/B test, we were actually recreating the game. Sometimes the A/B test would take a month to develop, but it wouldn't perform well. So we tested around 200 A/B test variants for this game only, and you could imagine most of them did not happen to be on the normal standard version of the game, but failed. But still, with these A/B tests, it was a live operations for us, and still kept the game on the top charts for a long time. And of course, the seasonality is also important. So we took care of that by implementing Christmas packages, Halloween packages to the game. And these kind of attracted people more. And we changed icons of the game, and we tested out different icons to attract more people. I'll come back to Bridge Race again when I talk about the takeaways, but I'm simply going over the development phase of these two games. And let's talk about Color Match a bit more, and then we will come back to Bridge Race as well. Color Match was our second hit, and it was published on December 2021, and it was the most downloaded hyper-casual game of December 2021 and January 2022. And it got 60 million total downloads so far. It was like kind of long-standing top chart game in App Store of US specifically, because it was in the top 10 of US App Store games for over 3 months period. That was a very long time, actually, if you imagine. And it was the top chart game in 68 countries on App Store. So this is a very different game from Bridge Race, as you can imagine and see. We actually are proud of making 2 such different games from one studio. And that is actually because we believe in the innovative ideas. And with Bridge Race, we got a viral idea. But with Color Match, we got an ASMR viral idea. That's totally different from the IO and stack genre. And you can see it in the in-game metrics as well. For Color Match, while the playtime on the first phase is really high, in Bridge Race it isn't. But on late retention, you can see that Bridge Race has a lot more users in the long run than Color Match. So they differ a lot in the in-game metrics, and they differ a lot in the CPI. For Color Match, I can say that the CPI in the social channels, especially in the beginning, was so low that we did not go into the SDK networks for marketing in the first 3 months. Just the social channels, TikTok and Facebook, were enough to gather users to stay in the top charts. And that's actually cool, because we had the still amount of users from the SDK as well later on. It was our first ASMR work, one of our first ASMR works. And I'm not explaining the game, you cannot see the video, but it's just mixing colors and comparing it to an object so that you can blend the color in. First test brought not amazing results, but good KPIs for the CPI. But still, as you can see here, it's not very readable, but it got around 5% of retention in day 1. So you could ask why you iterated on it still. But in the beginning, our method was to try just the CPI and no levels in the game, just one level and looping again and again. So we knew that this could be drastically improved. So we kept on going with the retention. And we loved the concept, and it was a TikTok Reddit trend which came alive with this. So we said, okay, let's put 100 more levels to it. That's how we iterated, because content is much more important than just a one level loop. So we introduced new levels to the game, try to make the UI into more friendly, user-friendly one. And of course, IAP is always important. We implemented new IAP packages into the game. And late retention was still problematic. We got 7% or less. And you can see the environment, we call it 3D UI, but it's not a very logical thing to say. But you can see that it's a 3D environment with the UI on top of it. And you could go around and see other rooms with different objects. And that actually helped us with the retention, with the late retention a lot. While it was 7% in the beginning, it jumped up to 11% after we implemented this kind of an environment in the game. So again, coming back to this hyper casual to hybrid casual development cycle, we can say that this actually really helped us hybridize the game a lot. We added the spray painting. The video is not playing, but it would be after this part, the players will know you are not just comparing the colors, but we added a spray painting section to the game, stage game, and an auction part in the game. By making these additions, we increased the playtime a lot as well. And auction, as you can see, with more than 11% day 7, we cracked the late retention as well. And as I said as well, stayed in top 5 for a 2-month period. And we are still improving on that game. So I'll talk about the main goal of this presentation, the takeaways to hybridize your game. So firstly, I believe that we've done a quite well job with the product-oriented approach. What does it mean? We don't believe in a short-term hit game, but we believe that any kind of product that's marketable from day one could be improved well so that the users could still want to play the game after months. And by that logic, we actually cracked the late retention, and that's why the game is still in the top charts. And content was much really important in this manner, because we believe that in order to keep the players playing, you have to have a content in the game. I'll go over each of these one by one, by the way. So what's about the product-oriented approach? In the beginning, we believe not specifying the game in under any category from the beginning. So if you say that I've done a hyper casual game, it will only stay for 1 month in the top charts. Your mindset is put on that only. Like you're saying, okay, I'll get the profit from it and it's done. Like we are finished with it. But we've thought about it and said, like, compare it to any kind of, I don't know, like a drink, like a Coca-Cola drink, for example. You want to promote that product and manage that product so that in the long run, it's still usable by the players and it's still usable by the users. So we approached and put our mindset according to that. This approach will also help you come up with new ideas when you try to innovate in the game so that you can have more content in the game as well. And ATT and the store problems that we face nowadays regarding the monetization of the games, they will settle. I mean, we see that the end users are still playing with their mobile devices. And at the end of the day, if the App Store and Google Play are restricting us from some channels, at the end of the day, we have a saying in Turkish, like, water finds its way. Like, it will eventually come back to a point where advertisers will make more money and still the games will be monetizable and profitable, because at the end of the day, players will still want to play these games. As I said, lots of content. Now I compare it to a social media. It's absurd maybe, but when you look at why people are using their mobile devices, it's mostly because they want to see new content. And yes, they do not play games. And it's another topic maybe that TikTok and Snapchat are implementing games in their platforms. Maybe they could be the trend in the next phase. But still, the social channels, like this video is just a video of 1 second of content playing and swiping fast, and you can imagine that people are attracted to see new content all the time. And even in a day, we see that people spend around 45 hours in some countries just by looking at the screens. And what are they going to know? What are they going to see in those screens is new content in different applications. And this logic applies to the game as well. So your audience is willing to see a lot of new content. Believe in that. Change things every level as much as you can. That's the way method to approach that, because we all do level-based games in hyper-casual genre, even in the hybrid casual genre. So each level should be a new set of environment, but there's a balance, of course, because you don't want to give complexity in the background environment so that players will lose the attraction to the game. You want to keep it simple, but at the same time, you want to add more content to the game. And of course, differentiating the gameplay, again, this is something related with the right balance as well. You do not want to lose the main mechanism. We've tested it with one of our games. We've tested from joystick control to a swerve mechanism in one of our levels, and it did not work out because the player, when onboarding, was just playing with the joystick mechanism. When you change it to swerve mechanism, the player just deleted the game. That was it. So we still want to keep the main mechanism alive while making these changes in the game. So that's why I say, like, we have to find the right balance to it. So focusing on late retention. Talking about hybrid casual, we always say that it's a long-term project. The prototype phase takes much longer. The advertising campaigns might take much longer. And actually, CPIs can be much higher. But at the end of the day, you'll be rewarded with a better LTV. And by this logic, you want to keep players engaged in your game in the late phase. Like, let's say day 30 might be an important metric when it comes to this. But you may ask, how am I going to know the day 30 if I want to launch the game from day 1? So it's kind of a test and see period. But I believe spending 1 month or 1.5 months for this kind of game efficient for your studio. And of course, we aim for more than 5% of day 30. We have achieved it with Bridge Race. We are still trying to accomplish it with Color Match as well. But this was the thing that actually kept Bridge Race in the top charts for so long and got 400 million downloads. We worked on the seasonality as well. I mean, again, coming back to the product approach, you have to know your audience, and audience acts differently from one season to another. For this recent thing, I've put the Halloween images here. I mean, we've had the Halloween images, and we have popped up the Halloween pop-up in the beginning of the game for a short time of period. And we've also done it with Christmas as well. For Color Match, we have implemented an environment where it was a summer vacation area, just for summer. And again, for Christmas, it was a snowy environment. And while testing, we saw that during winter season, Christmas theme actually went really great, while for summer theme was much better. So that means actually audience is attracted by seasonality as well. And we, of course, had to optimize our IAP products accordingly as well. There are some trademark issues when it comes to implementing new packages to the games. Like, we've thought about making, let's say, superhero package that would resemble Superman or, Flash characters. That was also a nice takeaway for us. I mean, we've done well with the IAP products by attracting children who would be willing to watch these movies and at the same time play this game. So if you've seen these videos, if you see these videos, the left one is a one with very low FPS, and on the right side, it got around 30 to 60 FPS. So what I want to bring up here is that we've spent around, I don't know, maybe 2 months or 2.5 months just to improve the game's performance. That was it. Like, no content, nothing, just improvement of the performance. Just because we saw that in one of the older devices, the game was unplayable. So this brought us an idea about attracting more users. And what happened is, in this graph here, you cannot see very detailed, but here around February of 2021, around the beginning of this year, we actually were having around 500K users daily. But just after we've released our update with the performance improvement, which we worked on so long, for 2 months, we've seen that the older devices were again capable of playing this game as well. And with the same amount of content, as you may know, the Unity developers will know, as you add more content to it, it means less performance. And as you add more, the size of the game increases. And on Google Play, for instance, there's 150 megabytes of limit when it comes to downloading the game from a cellular. So without the Wi-Fi, people would still want to download this game, right? So we said, okay, let's make it less than 150 megabytes so that people could still download these games. And that made us from 500K downloads a day that brought us to around 1 million users a day. And when we looked at the details of these downloads, we actually saw that it was the older devices who were able to download. And for newer devices, it's also better because they are playing with much more performance. So we suggest that you play with your grandma's phone or something to test these games, because it's not always the iPhone X players or iPhone 14 Pro players who are going to play your games. So in that case, the crashes and ANRs are to look up for. I mean, we have to care about the crash analytics or the game analytics errors all the time. That's what we implement in our games. And after each update, we actually search for the results of the ANRs and crashes that may be brought up again and again. So constant updates and A/B tests. Of course, things that I talked about until now are always the things that should be updated. I mean, we are not talking just a normal iteration here. We are talking about a new game implementation. For example, recent update that we've done in Bridge Race was that after the end of the level, you would see a platform with first, second, and third podiums. And right now, on the right version, you can see that there's a gate opening up to a idle arcade game area. Actually, it makes sense that with the stacks that you got from the end level of the game, you could use these stack blocks to actually play an idle arcade game at the end of the level. And that actually increased our retention and playtime a lot. So we've done a recent update with this, and it worked. Actually, we have tested around more than, as I said, around 200 A/B test variants just for Bridge Race, and maybe, more than 200 A/B test variants for Bridge Race, and maybe more than 150 on Color Match. And some A/B test variants were totally new games, and they failed. So that means you shouldn't demoralize yourself by, making updates and seeing that it fails in the game. So IAP products are important for hybridization of the game. That's not a video, so you can understand. Players will not like to buy an IAP product if there are not many of them. I mean, if they see a shop full of IAP products, then they may be attracted to choose one from them. So we believe that implementing variety of IAP products also helped us. And by variety, I don't mean just the count, but by changing the theme of it, by bringing up seasonality to the game, as I've shown before, the Halloween package or Christmas package were really helpful for increasing our IAPs. And of course, there's an ad revenue, but no ads was also a key factor here, because when the players would play the game for so long, when the late retention is high, those players who are actually adding up to the late retention are the ones who are more willing to buy these IAP products, because it's a mutual thing. Like, if the player plays more, they wouldn't like to see the ads anymore. So the late retention also helped us with the IAP revenues as well. So these were the takeaways, but again and again, we are saying that adapting to the environment is the key factor here. So target device is still the same. So what should we do in the shifting markets? Target device is still the same. The main mechanisms are similar. We either swerve, swipe, or play with the joystick mechanism on our devices. There's not going to be a AR or VR product anytime soon. So we know that until then, we should be taken advantage of these devices. And from an end user's perspective, I believe the players will still play, and they will play even more. Like we see it in the statistics. As I mentioned, like in some countries, people look at their screens, device screens, for 4 hours a day, but it's increasing in time, 4.5 hours, 5 hours a day. Like there's more content, and the conventional media is dying. Like the advertisers in the TV industry or radio industry are much lower than these industries that we are looking at. And for ATT and other issues, as I mentioned, all rivers fall into the sea. I mean, today, yeah, they may be refusing the tracking options in the games, but later on, maybe it will perform better with the advertisers. Like the advertisers will be much more profitable because they will show less ads, and in order to show more relatable ads, those will be much more expensive, though that the developers and studios and publishers will get more revenue from these lesser ads, let's say. And again, coming back to the panel again, we don't need to distinguish between hybrid casual, hyper casual, but we have to focus on the product itself. And by that logic, the ideation phase is always the key factor here. When you begin the project, you have to believe in that project and make it as good as possible by adding these updates, because at the end of the day, the innovative idea in the first day will help you gain these attractions by adding these updates. So the idea is always the most important part of this, and it's all a game at the end of the day. And we know that there are PC games out there which are always played, like Age of Empires and Counter-Strike. People are still playing these games because they were attractive from the first day. So any addition to these games would still help, but as they are still going to stay there. Thank you for listening. If any questions, I could take.
Hello, Abdurrahman Koçak from Rotate Lab. What made you believe that making an iteration for a game that has $1.2 CPI?
Actually, from day one, it was 9 cents. So we always trusted in that CPI. Like we were seeing seasonality in the CPI, yes, but still we believed that we could come back to that, because by then we were testing on CTR. And for CTR, you know that we do not make the game in the stores. Like we do not publish the game in the store. We just test the videos. And there something attracted me a lot. Like while we published these advertisements on all social channels, the comment section I looked into, there were many people asking for what game is it? What's the name of the game? There were a lot of comments like that. And I believe that people would like to download this. And for one thing, I didn't see it on any other CTR videos of any other games that we produced. So that was a key point for me, because something unique that's on the market and people wanted to download it badly. So we kept on going. But again, it's sometimes the instincts of the developers and the studio. Like you have to believe that this game will do. Maybe it couldn't have done, but at the end of the day, it did after a year of iterations, you know.
That's the answer. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the day.